have on our podcast Mr. Abhinav Agrawal, the owner of Four Seasons Jabalpur. And Four Seasons, just to give an insight to our audience, has become a cult classic among all the students and the youngsters, including myself. Like back in the school days, we used to come to Four Seasons for sandwiches and stuff, and especially pastries. The uh, white chocolate pastry, White Forest
Yes.
pastry. White Forest pastry was my favorite back then. So Abhinav, thanks for giving your time to us.
Thank you
And
too.
today we
You
have
too
this. We
for
are
having
like,
me here.
yeah, sure. We really wanted to have you on a podcast. So the premise of this podcast is to basically understand the history of Four Seasons. How did you guys come up with it, and where are you guys headed to, right?
Okay.
So let's start with the history of podcast. So why don't you tell about yourself first, and then history about Four Seasons?
Yeah, so I can say that Four Seasons is not something that was very well thought on. We did not think that Four Seasons would grow as a brand in Jabalpur like this, and everything was based out of passion only. So Four Seasons is a product of good work and passion, and it was started in the later 90s by my mother herself, and it was started because of her passion for baking. So I used to be what 2 3 years old when I used to see her taking baking classes at home. So nobody in the entire family knew that this would convert into a brand like what she has created for us. And so, being of the same age bracket that we are in, I am also a fan of the products that we used to sell. So it is more or less a product of passion, and it is a product of what my mother had visualized, or maybe she wanted to bring about a change in this way people used to perceive cakes and baked items in Jabalpur.
I'm also seeing like the next generation of customers get coming into the bakery and enjoying your products. That's great. So, from a half-baked product, half-baked idea to Four Seasons,
Yes.
like how did you see that journey happen in
So
Jabalpur?
I was fortunate enough to see it happening, and it is extremely laborious, I would say. Back in the day, also when there was no contemporaries, there were very less amount of people who were actually into baking and stuff, and we were the first movers. I would say that we would have had the opportunity. We took the opportunity to take it forward when it came to fresh cream baking, and my mother basically wanted the society to understand यहाँ पे कि how does English baked item taste, and how it is supposed to be. It is not only the looks, it is the flavor as well, it is the quality as well, and everything. And of course, there were people who were actually killing it in Jabalpur, and it was never the idea to. It was never the intent was always to keep working. It was putting in your labor, it was putting in your effort, and see where it took us. And everybody in the entire family was extremely supportive, and that is when exactly I passed out from my 12th. And right from the first day itself, I started understanding the systems and where I could fit in. And this is something, if you see, food industry is more of socializing as well. It is more of talking to people, getting to know each other. And me being the person I am, I wanted to understand what people want. And being fortunate enough to be given the brand,
Right.
it was more of a responsibility as well to uphold the name. It was not easy for me as well, but then it was not as difficult as it is for a first generation.
So, at what time did you take over the business?
So so in our family, in the way we work, it is not taking over, or it is the concept is basically to bring your ability into the business and then you take it forward. So it is like there are some places where even I get stuck today, and then my mom comes into the picture and then she solves the issues. So we have our own departments, we have our understandings towards me taking care of what I am good at. So it is not. I usually have been asked this question a lot of times that now अब तुम संभाल रहे हो, तो संभाल कोई कुछ नहीं रहा होता है. So it is like if I am not dependent on my team, if I am not confident about my team, me as a single person can do nothing.
Correct.
So it is like taking decisions in your own respective area of work, and you bring a change in the work environment.
So you have been observing this business for a while. So
Yes.
what changes have you seen like in the past 10 years in baking industry or in your industry? First of all, before that question, what industry is Four Season in?
So we are. So that's a very good
Yeah.
question. We are not into the bakery industry. We are into the hospitality industry.
Yes. That was
And
the question.
this is where I understood that in Jabalpur, nobody is selling hospitality, nobody is serving hospitality. As in, I'm not saying that uh, nobody has done it ever. There are people, there are plethora of options that I go to, and you are very happy with the kind of service and the kind of overall atmosphere in the work environment. But I thought that Four Seasons wants to stand out in terms of selling a product, and at the same time making the customer feel hospitable. So that is when in 2017 we started this cafe, and we wanted to bring about a change in how people used to perceive coffee. So me being the passionate coffee enthusiast that I am, I wanted to understand whether how would it work here in Jabalpur, and it worked pretty well for us. And in these 10 years, what I would say, the change that has happened is that people have started becoming more adaptable to trying new products, maybe experimenting on things, and that is something that pushes us in order to innovate and stuff. So if there is a perception of, for example, a vada pav, so people have that vada pav and they go, you are doing nothing more than what they're expecting. Next time, if they come to you and ask for a vada pav, you can tell them that we have a better version of it. We have evolved, and if the customer themselves come and tell you that you need to evolve, you need to bring out a change, experiment,
Right.
that pushes us forward. So we do what people want us to do. So that is again one thing that I would want everybody to understand, that they need to understand what the people want,
Right.
and they should be adaptable enough for make sure that it is not ego based, the work is not ego based, that हम तो ऐसे ही बनाते हैं, ऐसा नहीं होता है. So it's like if the customer is coming to you and giving you an insight on how things are supposed to be, you need to be adaptable enough to understand whether they are, you of course you cannot fulfill everybody's requirements, but at the end of the day you have to have a ballpark of everybody's average and what they want, and you need to do something on that line.
So since you have took the helm of Four Season, what are the changes you have seen like in consumer behavior or in consumer spending in Jabalpur specifically? What are the
So-
changes have you observed?
So when we started, it was when we started the overall enterprise, people did not know how much money to pay, right? So pricing our product accordingly was very difficult then. But at this point of time, because of the connectivity, because of Instagram and YouTube and everybody having that exposure of what is being sold around the country, what is being sold around the globe rather, people have started to understand that quality comes at a price. And in Jabalpur itself, staying in Vijayanagar also, I would say that people have started to become adaptable to spending money for good quality products.
So can you give us an example about that price sensitivity point?
The price sensitivity point, so if you go to a metropolitan city and if you see that there is a chocolate truffle cake that is being sold at around 2,500 rupees a kg,
Correct.
and we being in the third tier city are selling it at 1100, so people understand that earlier what used to happen was कि यार ये दिल्ली नहीं है, अब यहाँ पे वो प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है हमारे पास में. दे नो दैट थिंग्स आर कॉस्ट बेस्ड, एंड नो बिजनेसमैन इज, मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि इंसान कोई चीज यहाँ पे 1100 की मिल रही है तो वहाँ 2200 की मिल रही है, तो वहाँ पे 2200 में वो 1100 रुपए मेरे से ज्यादा कमा रहा है, उसकी कॉस्ट से वैसी है.
Correct.
तो हमारी कॉस्ट जितनी है उसके हिसाब से देयर इज अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ प्रॉफिट दैट वी कीप एंड देन वी सेल इट टू द कस्टमर. एंड अर्लियर पीपल were used to asking for a lot of discounts, and they used to think the perception of the people was basically कि 50% तो मार्जिन है ही है इसमें, मतलब फूड कॉस्ट तो इतनी होती है, ऐसा नहीं होता है। तो जब आप ऑपरेशंस देखते हो, ऑपरेशन कॉस्ट देखते हो, ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट देखते हो, आप फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट देखते हो अपनी, जब बिजनेस के अंदर आप घुस जाते हो, समझते हो कि क्या हो सकता है यहाँ पे, तो कस्टमर ऑटोमेटिकली वहाँ पे अब अंडरस्टैंडिंग का लेवल बढ़ गया है।
राइट।
तो अब people have started to understand that good quality products come at a good cost.
सो दिस न्यू कंज्यूमर अवेयरनेस जो आई है, राइट, ये किसके कारण आई है? मतलब इज इट बिकॉज ऑफ द न्यू जनरेशन दैट इज कमिंग फॉरवर्ड हु अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट हाउ थिंग्स वर्क बिकॉज ऑफ सोशल मीडिया एंड द इंटरनेट, और डू यू थिंक कि अब धीरे धीरे परसेप्शन चेंज होता ही जा रहा है लोगों का?
परसेप्शन
across
चेंज
the
इसलिए हो रहा है क्योंकि
age
जनरेशन चेंज हो रही है।
हाँ।
पहले मार्केटिंग को लेकर ऐसा होता था कि पहले आदमी बोलता था कि मार्केटिंग वो कंपनी कराती जिसका काम नहीं चलता। आज मार्केटिंग हर आदमी करा रहा है क्योंकि उसको पता है कि भाई जब तक मैं सामने नहीं रहूंगा तब तक मैं दिखूंगा नहीं तो बिकूंगा नहीं। तो परसेप्शन तो ओवरऑल ही चेंज हो रहा है, लेकिन अगर अपन बात करें कि किस लेवल पे चेंज, जो एक्स्ट्रा चेंज आ रहा है वो बिकॉज ऑफ ट्रैवलिंग आ रहा है। और स्पेसिफिकली आफ्टर कोविड पीपल स्टार्टेड अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि भाई पैसा रख के आप कहीं नहीं जा रहे हो, आपको घूमना जरूरी है, आपको एक्सपोजर लेना जरूरी है, और वो जो सॉफ्ट चीजें आप लेते हो ना, विच इज नॉट मटीरियलिस्टिक, वो अंडरस्टैंडिंग का कॉन्सेप्ट अब आ गया। अब ऐसा हो रहा है कि पहले ऐसा नहीं कि पहले लोग ट्रैवल नहीं करते थे, पर पहले लोग ऐसे होते थे कि यार ये वाली चीज वहां जाके खाएंगे, ये वाली चीज के ऊपर इतना पैसा वहां खर्चेंगे। अब ऐसा नहीं है, और इसका मेजर इम्पैक्ट जो है ये बिकॉज ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स गोइंग आउट टू स्टडी, कमिंग बैक, एंड और अब कम्युनिकेशन इज टू वे बिटवीन पेरेंट्स एंड चिल्ड्रन। पहले क्या होता था कि आपने मतलब राइट फ्रॉम बेसिक लेवल ऑफ इनकम जिनकी होती थी वो स्कूटर पे बैठे, मम्मी पापा बैठे, आप बच्चे बैठे, जहां आपको फादर ले गए आप जा रहे हो। अब चीजें बदल रही हैं। अब ऐसा है कि पीपल आर अडेप्ट, मतलब पेरेंट्स आर आल्सो इवन अडेप्टेबल टू चेंज। भाई आप बताओ कहाँ चल सकते हैं। और पहले क्या होता था कि जो समझ में आया कि अर्लियर व्हाट यूज्ड टू हैपन वाज कि पहले जो क्लाइंट्स होते थे, जो पेरेंट्स होते थे, वो बहुत कम बाहर निकलते थे, और जब बाहर निकलते थे या किसी ऐसी एक्सक्लूसिव जगह पे आ जाते थे तो उनके साथ प्रॉब्लम सबसे बड़ी क्या होती थी, दे डिड नॉट यूज्ड टू फील कंफर्टेबल सिटिंग देयर, क्योंकि उनका वो लेवल ऑफ एक्सपोजर ही नहीं था। अब ऐसा है कि आप कहीं पे भी जाते हो, यू वॉक इनटू अ 5-स्टार रेस्टोरेंट और मे बी अ 5-स्टार होटल, you go there, you sit there comfortably, not because you are exposed to that environment but your children are.
Correct.
So if I would have gone outside to study and I would have had that exposure with a diversified amount of people who would have taught me to go around, जिनके साथ में बाहर निकलता, जिनका अपना अपना लेवल ऑफ एक्सपोजर होता, तो चीजें बहुत अलग हो जाती हैं। तो you bring a lot of exposure into the family as well, and when you bring that level of exposure into the family, everybody is open to learning.
Correct.
So as a family, as a spender, सब इकट्ठे एक ही उसमें चले जाते हैं।
Right. So, Four Season, how is Four Season an outlier in Jabalpur? What are you doing different?
So we have always believed in our niche. We have always understood. We have tried to understand the kind of clientele that we have, and that is exactly how we have been, and this is how exactly how we want to function in the future as well. So it is not something very different that what we are doing from our contemporaries. It is just that we try to bring the best possible product at the best possible price. So I can say that anything that we can introduce products which are 5,000 rupees a kg as well, but that is not something that the client is expecting. And we need to just be in that price bracket and serve exactly what comes at that price. So we are not outliers, we are just doing our part in the city.
Right. So as a third generation businessman family wise and second generation businessman in Four Seasons, what are the difficulties that you face, or what are the challenges you face thinking that this business has been started by somebody else, like your family, and now you are like being a part of it? What are the challenges that you face?
So at the initial levels when I had just started, there was a lot of things that I wanted to change about in the overall environment. But of course, for example, my mother had done so much in her life, like she has still been doing something that is very significant in the society, and I think it was it was not easy for anybody to just walk inside an environment and say कि भाई आज से ऐसा आज से ऐसा आज से ऐसा. So you have to lead with example. So when you lead with example, there are people who, so my team has seen me grow up. So from looking at me like a child, the perception that had to be changed was something that was difficult for me. And then they adapting to what I am saying about how things are supposed to be. And in our family, in our business environment also, everything is communication based. So we talk about everything and then we come to a conclusion. There is just one phase that everybody looks at, but the decisions at the back end is always very well thought of. So it was not very difficult for me in order to make those changes, in order to take the brand forward. But when it comes to the ground reality of interacting with staff, interacting with your team, interacting with the customers, it has its own challenges.
So let's talk about like some more interesting topics. Like you had a pretty good journey being an entrepreneur, right? So what have been your highest and lowest points? Let's start with the lowest point that you had as an entrepreneur.
My lowest points are something that I try to make my highest points as well. I learn from it and then I see. So एक concept होता है कि ये नहीं करना है. जैसे I would want to bring an example of a brand that I had started for the entire nation, और मेरे को लग रहा था कि यार अब तो मैं पूरा D2C जाऊंगा. और D2C
Okay.
D2C is direct to consumer.
Yeah.
And वेबसाइट बना ली और सब कुछ कर लिया.
किस चीज का बिजनेस था?
इंस्टेंट कॉफी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. एक हमारा आउटसोर्सिंग थी और उसके अंदर हम, मेरा एक ब्रांड है जिसका नाम है कोटाडो.
Okay.
तो कोटाडो इज जस्ट लाइक अ कैपुचिनो. तो कैपुचिनो कॉफी है, वैसे कोटाडो कॉफी है. तो कोटाडो मेरा ब्रांड है यहाँ पे, और वो उस नाम बहुत पसंद है मेरे को, तो मैंने अपने ट्रेडमार्क करा के रखा है. तो आई वेंट टू नागपुर, अंडरस्टैंडिंग के इंडिया में बहुत सारी जगह है जहाँ पे टू गो एज एन टेक अवे सिस्टम बहुत है. तो नागपुर इज समथिंग दैट आई फिगर्ड के यार यहाँ से पास में है, एंड नागपुर इज थ्राइविंग अगेन. तो इट इज अ गैप दैट आई कैन फिल. और उस समय नागपुर में कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं थी, मतलब ऐसा कोई भी कैफे एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता था जो टू गो कॉन्सेप्ट पे हो.
अच्छा.
तो हम यहाँ से गए नागपुर, हमने कॉफी शॉप खोला अपना. कोविड आ गया, कोविड के बीच में तो जब ये करते करते 2021 आ गया, फिर हमको समझ में आया कि दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज नॉट वर्किंग आउट एंड वी हैड टू कम बैक. सो दैट एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ मी वर्किंग इन द फैमिली बिजनेस फॉर सो मेनी years, more than a decade, and then going to Nagpur, taking all that experience and taking all that I had gathered from my learnings and everything, and when I had to come back, it was a point where I thought कि यार this is something that pulled me back. But after it happened, I understood कि ये नहीं करना है, ये सीख मिल गई है. तो your failures are basically going to teach you क्या नहीं करना है.
Correct.
तो अप्रोच की बात होती है. एंड आई myself being a risk taker, I started again. तो D2C का जो कॉन्सेप्ट आया था वो यही आया था कि इंस्टेंट कॉफी, जो जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल आप मेरे कैफे में आओगे तो आपको कॉफी मिलेगी जिसका नाम है नॉस्टैल्जिया. तो नॉस्टैल्जिया मेरा रेसिपी डेवलप खुद का है. तो मेरे को ये था कि यार जब मेरे कोई कैफे आएगा, जब कोई कोल्ड कॉफी पिएगा और नॉस्टैल्जिया ऑर्डर करेगा, so many things will have to fall in place for them to have nostalgia. Why not go to their homes and give them nostalgia?
Correct.
So I figured out a company who used to manufacture instant coffee, फ्लेवरिंग करते थे वो. तो उनके साथ गया, उनके साथ में डिस्कशन करके अपने फ्लेवर्स बनाए मैंने. और फ्लेवर्स बनाने के बाद में समझ में आया कि ये फ्लेवर्स का ट्रायल्स एंड टेस्टिंग कैसे होगी, क्योंकि दिस कंपनी इज बेस्ड आउट ऑफ सूरत. They used to send me samples. I used to make those coffee shots and understand कि किसका फ्लेवर प्रोफाइल कैसा है, क्या नहीं है. तो इट वॉज बिल्ट आउट ऑफ पैशन, और बहुत मेहनत की थी उस ब्रांड बनाने में कि वो प्रोडक्ट जो है वो इतना अच्छा है कि उस प्रोडक्ट को सिर्फ मार्केटिंग चाहिए और वो प्रोडक्ट चल जाएगा. एंड D2C सोचा था जाएंगे, तो हमने वेबसाइट भी बना ली, खुद से कोड करना थोड़ा बहुत सीख लिया. सब कुछ करते करते 1 साल चला है. उसके बाद में समझ में आया कि दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज ब्रिलियंट इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्रोडक्ट, एंड दिस इज नॉट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, दिस इज द फीडबैक दैट आई हैव गॉट. बट फाइनली ये हुआ कि हमने वो ब्रांड बंद कर दिया, वो ब्रांड वेबसाइट बंद कर दी, क्योंकि समझ में आया कि इतना ईजी नहीं है.
करेक्ट.
तो 4 सीजन्स को मद्देनजर रखते हुए भी आप सोचोगे आज मैं एक ब्रांड बन चुका हूँ यहाँ पे और मैं एक नया ब्रांड बना दूंगा, वो इट इज़ वेरी डिफिकल्ट, एक्सट्रीमली डिफिकल्ट. तो हाइज एंड लोज की अगर अपन बात करें तो लोज हैव बीन माय फेलियर एंड आई ट्राई टू कन्वर्ट इट इनटू माय
Your highs.
what not to do. I learn what not to do now. And if I have to do it next time, I'll probably do it in a better way or a little different.
So do you think Four Seasons has some competition in Jabalpur?
Yes, absolutely. Competition is everywhere. And looking at how things are functioning right now, it is not only limited to Jabalpur, it is unlimited. If somebody is selling you a product which is easily accessible, if it is deliverable in a day or two, people will wait. And I personally don't think competition is something that you are supposed to be worried about, because it seldom happens that you are the only person who's doing something. Everybody is doing their part of the job and they are doing it in the best of their abilities. You have to do it in the best of your abilities.
Right, that is true. So, where is Four Seasons headed right now? In what direction?
So we are getting our product portfolio to be present across, and the additions of namkeen, the additions of makhana, understanding how foxnuts have started to play a role in the healthy industry. So we have started to do something like that as well, and we are manufacturing people. We love manufacturing things, and namkeen was a very good exposure for us. We introduced our namkeens in the city, and then it started to grow. It has already been more than a year since we started our namkeen manufacturing, and this is how we keep introducing new products and observe the customers' feedback, and then we work towards giving them either the better form of that product only, or make an entire new product.
That's cool. So let's move on to the next segment of our podcast, which is giving some insights that you have learned from your industry for future entrepreneurs, right? So any 3 tips that you would give to a future entrepreneur or somebody who wants to start a bakery or restaurant or hospitality business?
Yeah,
3 tips.
So my advice, I'm really. So my advice would not really be for only bakery people, or maybe for restaurants and stuff. It is going to be a more broader approach. That first is to understand your niche, what you are good at. For example, we are proud when we say that we are proud manufacturers. There are people who are into the retail industry. There are people into a lot of other industries as well. We are food manufacturer. We stick to it, and because we understand it, and no amount of theoretical knowledge can teach you that. You have to be in that shoe in order to understand how things work. So understanding your niche is something that I would urge everybody to think about, and
Right.
it will take a lot of time, but good things do take time, right? So first is to understand your niche. Second is to build a team. It is not something that you would want to do in the corporate format, that you open LinkedIn, you hire people, and then you start working. That is not how it is supposed to be. So businesses take a lot of time to find staff, find employees, find your team, and understand that this team is going to take them forward. The second point would be that build your team from scratch. That is how it should be, and that is how it is supposed to be. And usually what happens is that people, for example, in the bakery industry, only in the restaurant industry, people are like that, I have a lot of money, I will open a restaurant, and team, I can hire a consultant, or maybe I'll go to different places and then ask people to work for me, and they'll come and they'll bring their experience, and that is how I'm going to thrive.
Right.
That is not the right approach. That is not something that is going to make you go far. And when you do things like this is something that tells a lot about the founder as well, or maybe the owner as well, that they are driven not out of passion. So this is one of the major impacts that are inevitable.
Correct.
When you take the shortcut route, because there is no shortcut.
And the third point?
The third point is that as a single person, you can do nothing. You have to be very, very open to ideas. You have to be adaptable to change. You have to be adaptable to evolve. And when you look at things, you have to look at it from the broader perspective rather than your own single perspective. And the most important part of any entrepreneur journey or maybe anybody's journey is to being reliant and to rely on their teams as well.
Correct.
Your team is going to be the backbone of your industry, and you have to make sure that you understand their requirements. You have to make sure that they get what you want them to do, and you have to be adaptable to their feedback as well.
Right. So, what would an ideal day at Four Seasons for Abhinav would look like?
Every day is an ideal day for me. I am very happy with how the city has, welcomed this not so new but comparatively new outlet that we opened in Vijayanagar, and I think in Four Seasons like Tayyabali also we just did the renovation part
Right.
2 years ago, and an ideal day is for my there are no complaints, there are no issues, though I am always open to feedback. But an ideal day would be like people coming in, people buying things, me being told that I love this product of yours, or maybe that makes my day.
All right. So let's move on to the last segment of our podcast, which is your interaction with InstaPixy.
Yeah.
Right. So let's start with this. Why did you give us a chance? So we met at we met in
Barista.
7 Lines. Yeah, met in 7 Lines. I told you about the idea, and like in couple of hours, you already had downloaded the app
Yes.
and started making job cards. So what was it that you thought, ki, let's give it a try?
Rohan, to be very honest, I've always been very open to experimenting new things, and when it is about experiments, it teaches you something, right? So when I met you, I understood that this is something that you are doing in order to fill a gap here in Jabalpur. And InstaPixy is something that is making me reach a broader audience. The visual appealing products that you have, and the kind of change that I can see in the city already. So this is something that InstaPixy has promoted in the city, and as you are taking things forward, it is growing to be a better and a more evolved version of how influencer marketing and how people perceive marketing to be.
Correct.
So as I previously mentioned कि earlier people used to think कि marketing वही लोग कराते हैं जिन लोग का काम नहीं चल रहा होता.
हाँ.
ऐसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. तो क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं है और आपके पास में see the kind of services that you are rendering right now are the need of the city, and I'm extremely happy with what you have done, and not because you're sitting here and I'm on your podcast, but at the same time I would say that the kind of ease that is there in your application, you just go fill a job card and you just post your requirements. There will be people, and then you can hire anybody and everybody. There is no personal interaction with anyone. There is no negotiation. Rates are set. Everything are done. Everything is done, and most importantly, it is fluid. The way it is working out for us right now is very advisable to other entrepreneurs as well, or maybe the other business houses as well. And the quality of content creators also on board are not just another
Correct.
people. So I have not had the opportunity to meet any one of them, but at the same time, the kind of quality that has been delivered is something that I was always looking forward to doing. And coming back from the D2C part, when I had my own website, I have had this experience of having influencer marketing companies on board, and this is not how easy it was. So InstaPixy as an application is very well thought of, and is something that is curated for a city like Jabalpur.
Correct.
And this is something that I observed out of the application.
I'm really interested to hear from you. So if you want to suggest it to a fellow businessman, how would you tell them, like, why InstaPixy? Why should they use InstaPixy?
InstaPixy because you don't have to see. As a businessman, मेरा काम ये नहीं है कि मैं content बनाऊं. As a businessman, मेरा काम ये नहीं है कि मैं उन चीजों पे ध्यान दूं जो शायद मेरे जॉनर में ही नहीं है.
Correct.
तो you cannot hire an accountant to do marketing, right? वैसे ही marketing के लिए marketing होती है, तो you don't have to have a marketing head right now, because as a company right now as well, we don't have that much of traction or maybe that much of um, in my specific use case, we do not have marketing people, right? We don't have marketing heads.
Correct.
So InstaPixy takes over for you, and they are your personal marketing heads. So rather, this can be your caption as well. Your personal marketing heads.
Yeah, that's a good one. We also have another one which is called Hype Maker.
Hype maker.
Hype Maker.
Yeah.
It creates hype in the city, like.
So your personal marketing head looking for a marketer.
Yeah, correct.
So this is something that you could do, and InstaPixy is something that I am very comfortable working with. All I have to do. So I was traveling when we had a talk
Right.
about getting a reel made and stuff. So I was traveling. All I had to do was to open your application, go to the reel section, apply for a reel, and then everything was done.
Correct.
So if it is easy for me, and if me not giving a lot of time is involved, then I will do something like this.
Correct.
The major concern for me as a businessman, or maybe for other people as well who are on the same zone, are in the same zone rather, is to just brainstorm. We don't have to brainstorm here.
Correct.
So we launched our namkeen, we launched our makhana. So all I had to do was to go to InstaPixy, tell them that we have just launched our makhana, and that is it. The content creator will come, they'll create the content, they'll go, and that is exactly what we want our audience to know.
Correct.
And it has helped us in order to reach new people as well. So Instagram followers is something that we always used to look forward to, but looking at how InstaPixy has helped us, it has reached a broader audience with the visual appeal.
Correct.
So that is something that I could have not done in my own space.
Thanks a lot for the review. And any suggestions or anything, any improvements that you want to suggest to us?
No, I think you are on the right track. You don't have to look forward to my advice right now, or maybe my suggestions, because I think coming from where I have had experiences with influencer marketing companies and coming straight to an application like InstaPixy, I say that you are understanding what people want as customers. I am a customer,
Right.
and I think you are on the right track.
This is an ideal day for me. No complaints.
There's going to be a day when I'm going to take your podcast, and then you tell me what's an ideal day for you.
Sure thing. So, okay. So, last question. If InstaPixy was not to exist from tomorrow, how bad would you feel on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would feel stressed.
No questions asked. This is the last question. Just tell 1 to 10. How bad would you feel on a scale of 1 to 10? No follow questions.
10.
Perfect. Ideal day for me.
Because see, when you are solving a problem, what if this question actually is something that I would not want to answer, only because I know that if you're filling a gap, if you are making sure that you are bringing about a change, why would you not exist?
Correct.
So this is something that I would not want to think about only, because what you are doing right now is something that is filling gaps on certain levels, and when you are filling those gaps, everybody is going to keep pouring only. So why would you go?
Right. So the reason why we ask this question is like, it's a bit edgy way to ask, like, how important are we to you?
No, so
Yeah, a bit edgy way to ask. That's pretty much what it is.
I understand
There are
that.
no follow questions. There's like, ठीक है, 8 भी बोलते, you might have said 8. We were like, ठीक है, it's fine. We understand, because see, you being from like you being a millennial, you understand how important social media is and the impact it has, right? Many of the generations prior to us, they don't understand how impactful marketing social media presence can be.
Yeah, because they were thriving. No,
Yeah,
the reason for social media to come into picture in terms of the commercialized space is because of the exposure that social media has given us, right?
correct.
But when we talk about our previous generations, there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, and there was no other medium to understand कि भाई ये भी आदमी वही चीज बेच रहा है कि नहीं बेच रहा है. अभी if I come across an order which is supposed to be fulfilled in a day, and I have to send it to Punjab, I'll be able to send it to Punjab. How would they know about me? Because of InstaPixy, because of social media, because of Instagram, because of these applications.
Right.
So this is what this is what I have always said about marketing, that marketing is one of the most important factors. One of the most important factors. It takes an equal credit in terms of your financial planning, in terms of your operations planning. You have to have marketing planning as well. Thinking of making your business grow.
That's cool. Well, Abhinav, thanks a lot for the insights. Really amazing.
Yeah.
And I do hope that we see Four Seasons like growing pretty high and probably expanding to multiple cities also. And thanks a lot for your time. And we'll wrap up the podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
We just wrap it up.